Words are powerful, and because of that, we need to have some legal protection from things that are written about us or spoken about us, and that's called, when it comes to the written word, it's called libel. So let's take a look at that. Libel fits under defamation, which basically says if you make false statements about someone that damages their reputation, that's going to be a problem for you. There's two different types. One is slander, spoken is slander, and things that are written down, that falls under libel. Now, we have defamation laws because your reputation is valuable to you. It means something, and it needs protection. We used to duel over reputations. This is a little bit easier on us. And then, really this is another one of those cases where we have to balance the First Amendment against other rights that we have. We talked about that in relation to legal theory, and it comes up again here. What is more important, the right to the First Amendment to have a free press and be able to publish what it wishes, or your right to have information published about you that's fair and accurate? So individuals are libeled, corporations can be libeled. You can't libel dead people, although a case can continue after someone passes away. Government bodies are not libeled, and groups are very difficult to libel. Now, proving libel, certain parts of it are easier than others. The simplest one is that it's published. So really, and all that involves is one person reading it. So literally, if you wrote something on a piece of paper, gave it to someone else, and they read it, and it was a libelous statement about someone, that could be considered libel. It has to be false. So truth is the ultimate defense against libel. The information has to be false and presented as truth. So it's presented as factual, but it is not, in fact, factual. It has to be defamatory. It has to damage their reputation. So just because I make a false statement about someone, if it doesn't harm their reputation, that's not libelous. The plaintiff has to be identifiable. That doesn't necessarily mean I name you. It means that you can tell who the person is. And then you need to recognize that it's a reckless disregard for the truth. So you really aren't paying a great deal of attention as a writer to the truth when you write this information out. We have two main types of libel. One is called libel per se. Per se means on its face. So the words themselves are libelous. You've said something about someone that harmed their reputation, and it was libelous. Libel per quod means because of circumstances. So although the words themselves may not be libelous, in the context you've presented them, now they fall under libel. Now, fault differs depending on who the person is that's being libeled, that feels their reputation's damaged. If you're a private person just going about your life and you're not famous, you have to prove negligence, which is that the reporter has failed to exercise reasonable or ordinary care, and I've given you some examples of what that might be. A public figure, however, has to prove what's called actual malice, and that is knowledge that the information was false and they knew it was false and intended to harm the reputation when it was published. Some areas where we as reporters run the risk of straddling the libel line, most notably is crime. So if you're a reporter, you're writing a story about someone and you call them a murderer or you call them a burglar or whatever it may be, if they haven't been convicted of that, you very likely could have libeled them. So we have to be very careful about saying someone's done something illegal if they have not been convicted. Now, it's not libel to accuse a professional person or a business person of making one mistake, but if we start to identify a pattern or we say this is an ongoing thing and it's not, now we're starting to straddle the libel line. Another area is trade libel. So if you're going to disparage people's property or their company or a product that they produce, now they would have to show some form of monetary loss because of false statements, but we really need to think about this as it pertains to, let's say, comments on Amazon or Yelp or something like that. If you're going to make statements of fact that would be provable fact that damage someone's reputation and they are false, now you're going to be looking at some sort of at the potential for libel. We also have what's called food libel, where you can actually be sued. There are 13 states have food libel laws for by a food manufacturer saying that there's disparaging comments being made against a food product. We actually had a case that was noteworthy of the Texas Beef Group versus Oprah Winfrey, when Oprah on her show said she would no longer eat beef during the scare of mad cow disease, and the beef producers said that she impacted their product, and they considered it to be defamatory. Now they did not win that case against her, but that's a good example of food libel at play. Now, we have to think about what is falsity. So, a lie obviously is false, but what about the example I give you here of a South Carolina driver accidentally struck and injured a police chief? She pleads guilty to driving too fast, and the chief later dies. Now, a newspaper told about the accident and said that this woman would not face any additional charges. Now, could this be libel? Well, the fact is the chief ends up dying of cancer later. He doesn't end up dying from the car accident. So this implies that because of what she did, she caused his death. So something like this, even though the statements are truth, the omission could actually turn this into libel.